good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Kevin.
Hi,
How are
Carma.
you?
Good morning. I'm great. It is sunny. I didn't find out till this morning it was going to be 65 today, which is so great, right, everybody?
Oh my God. So needed. And who was dancing to that music? Kevin, nice playlist for this one. Very impressed.
Oh,
I was
thank you.
feeling George.
Yes. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining. It's going to be a great day. It's going to be a great ninja session. One thing I want to remind everybody is that all of these sessions are recorded and they're all accessible on the Agent app in the featured posts. There is one post for It's All About Love, and literally every packet, whether it's Ninja or for It's All About Love, every video is in there. This video will be up in there later today. So if you miss a part of it, if you get distracted, need to take a call, or want to watch it again, just remember that it's there. And today, as we have every Thursday, we have a super special guest. Carma, who do we have today?
Indeed, we do. Our super special guest is Mrs. Natasha O'Connor, the fabulous managing broker of both Glenview offices and the Northbrook office. And we are so excited to have her here today. Hey, Natasha.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. I was fun you guys mentioned George because I'm like, do I need to do that? Like so much pressure. So, but I'm sitting, I can't. So anyways, but I'm super excited to be here this morning. This is one of my all-time, I think, favorite Ninja Accelerator classes. So I'm pumped to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for joining. So this is a good one. And here's another reminder. We have all the videos in that Agent app post. I would say all of them are great. But what I will say about the last two before this one, and this one included, is something that literally everybody can get something out of, because there are scenarios that every single one of us are presented with. So questions like when someone asks you, how's the market? We all get asked that question. So if you haven't seen that Ninja Accelerator, please go back to that playlist and watch that Ninja Accelerator, because it's a very simple takeaway that can change the reaction that people have when they ask you that question and you respond back. So before we get into anything else, let's do the video. So a couple of housekeeping logistical things. One is we have the chat. If you've been here before, you know we want you to put takeaways into the chat. So please make sure you do that. One note that I haven't brought up before is in the chat, you'll notice there's a drop-down box where you can send the chat to all panelists or all panelists and attendees. I want to point this out. Caution, if you send it to all panelists and attendees, it goes to everybody on this webinar. If you just send it to all panelists, it goes to the three of us. So you can choose who you want to send it to. I just want to make sure, so that there's nothing embarrassing that goes out to everybody, that we all know how to operate the chat. So again, in the chat, please put your takeaways as we watch the video. We're going to recap them after the video. And then we're going to shut down and start the video. It's almost 8 minutes long, I think. So we'll see you in about 8 minutes. Sound good, everybody?
Sounds good.
Awesome. All right. See you soon.
Hello and welcome to the Ninja Path. My name is Larry Kendall. I'm the author of Ninja Selling, and our goal is to help you increase your income per hour so that you can have a life. And our approach to doing that is to focus on three, what we call success keys: your mindset, your skill set, and your actions. And this particular session is a combination of mindset and actions, and it's entitled, You Are on My Mind. When you look at this photo, you can see the energy emanating off of a human body. And if we had special cameras, we could see that energy in colors, and the colors change based upon what we're thinking and what we're feeling, and sometimes we call it our vibe. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the vibe and the energy. This vibe is generated, as I said, by what we're thinking and what we're feeling. So for example, if we're happy, it's one color of energy. If we're angry, it's a different color. If we're in love, it's a different color. And colors are our frequency of light or frequency of energy coming off of our body. Now, we can't see this energy, but we can feel it, and we call it the vibe. And if you think about energy transfer, energy sent from a sender to a receiver, for example, radio communications or television, we look at different channels that we watch on television. Those are just basically different frequency that we tune to. Well, the human is emanating energy also. We're both sending and receiving energy at a frequency. And that frequency we call our vibe. So how important is the vibe, do you think, in sales? How important is it in trust? Do you ever pick up somebody's vibe and you trust them or you don't trust them? We believe the vibe is very, very important in sales. And in fact, we usually say, get your vibe on or get your ninja on before you meet with a customer. You know, if you look in nature and look at this school of fish, when they change direction, do they follow the leader? Does one fish go and then one by one they follow? Or do they move as if they were one entity? Well, they move as if they're one. And how do they communicate? How do they know that? Well, they communicate through vibe or through the frequency of energy. They're both sending and receiving energy, and they are able to communicate that way. So we see this in nature, and we also have personal experiences with this. You see, we're all connected in this field of energy. We're all swimming in a giant field of energy. In fact, the symbol for ninja selling is the Japanese symbol ki, which means energy, but it's more than just energy. It's the energy that connects all of us. It's the connecting energy. Sometimes you hear this in Chinese, it's chi. And somebody has good chi, bad chi, good energy, bad energy, good vibe, bad vibe. So that's what we're talking about. What we'd like to do is talk about the power of this vibe, the power of the energy that we're sending out into this energy field. And I'd like to share a story from Cindy Kurtz. Cindy is one of my partners at the group real estate company in Colorado. And Cindy's a great producer. And one of her rituals is on Saturday morning, she likes to open up the local newspaper and read the property transfers for the last week. She likes to go through, see who's buying, who's selling, what's being transferred. And what she sometimes notices is she'll see people that she knows. Maybe even one of her clients has bought or sold real estate with someone else. And she said at first when she saw this, she would get upset because she said, you know, I did a great job for them. They even sent me a letter thanking me. We've had a great relationship. They're in my flow system. I'm sending them my newsletter and so on. And why did they work with somebody else? And then she said, you know what? I decided I need to look in the mirror. I need to look at myself. And what I realized was that, yes, they were on my flow system, my auto flow of my mailings, but I had not talked to them in several years. And so whose responsibility is that? Who's not loyal? It's me, because I had not picked up the phone and talked to them or made the point to see them face to face. Now, what's really interesting about this is that sometime that year, these people had come into Cindy's mind. She says, you know, they came into my mind just for a fleeting moment, and I thought about calling them, but for whatever reason, I didn't. And now I see them transferring real estate. So she says, you know, what I'm going to do is January 1st, I'm going to make a commitment that if somebody is on my mind, I'm going to pick up the phone and call them. And she decided to do that starting January 1st. Her results since then are 15 calls that she made, about 3 a week. And she would simply call them up and say, you know, you came into my mind, and I made a commitment to myself that starting the first of the year, if somebody came into my mind, I was going to pick up the phone and call them. So I'm calling you. I just wanted to check in, see how you're doing. How's the family? How's everything at work? What are you guys doing for fun? What are your plans for the summer, etc.? So she made 15 of these calls in the first 3 weeks of the year. Interestingly, 6 of them ended up on her hot list, 2 on her warm list, and she generated 2 transactions out of those 15 calls. What was really amazing was most of the people, when Cindy called and said, you know, you were on my mind, and I just made a commitment to myself that when somebody's on my mind, I'm going to give them a call. She says, most of them said, you know, it's funny, Cindy, that you called because you were on our mind. We were thinking about you as well. So the point is, our thoughts vibrate out. Have you ever had that experience? Have you ever thought about somebody and then suddenly they call you, or you call somebody and they say, you know, it's crazy that you called. We were just thinking about you. Well, we're all connected in this energy field called the field. And our thoughts are vibrating out. And we're all connected. So that's why this works. And we would encourage you to put this connection to work for you. I'd like to offer you a 10-second experiment. What we would like to do is have you bring someone into your mind, just relax, sit quietly, and people will come into your mind. And when they do, I'd like for you to jot their name down. And then what I'd like for you to do is pick up the phone and call them. And just say, you were on my mind. You came into my mind, and I promised myself when that happens that I will call. So I'm calling you. How are you doing? How's the family? How's business? What are you guys doing for fun? What would happen? Let's see if we could all make one phone call in this meeting, and then we'll compare notes and see how many of the people that we call make the comment, it's funny you called. You were on my mind as well. We're all connected in the field. We all have this connection through what we call the vibe. So let's put it to work and have some fun with this experiment. We can show you the ninja path, but you have to walk it. You have to make those phone calls. When somebody comes into your mind, make the call. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome
All right,
back.
so we saw some takeaways going into the chat. We'll cover that in a second. There's something I want to show everybody very quickly. Something that it's going to look weird because I took a screenshot of it. But I think I said when I sent out the email about this, or when I put out something earlier this week, talking about how serendipitous it was. Because earlier this week, we got 2 testimonials that played directly into this. Sort of wild. So this is where I say this happens. And one of the notes I want to make before we go into the takeaways is sometimes when people talk about energy and connectedness and vibe, it feels like voodoo and weirdness. Look, it happens. How many times have you wished, thought about someone and they did call you? Or how many times were you thinking about something and then you got an email about it? There's something to this, right? And here's what I want to show is we have an agent, Peter, who shared an email that he had received from someone he had reached out to. And so let me pull this up. 1 second here. I want to show this because right here, can you see that video? Or excuse me, that email? So right here, it says, "Hi, Peter, so great to hear from you. And honestly, freakishly serendipitous. You actually were on my and Laura's minds recently for a couple of reasons." Crazy. They use the exact language from this video. And the second one is Rich Neal. Rich Neal shared a text that he had sent, and Carma's going to talk about this in the hot tips, pro tips, whatever. But he shared a text. He was driving down the street. He drove by a contact's property, texted them, "Hey, how's it going? I just drove down your street." They said, "Perfect timing. We were just thinking about you and talking about how we were thinking about moving." So without further ado, I will say that sometimes we dismiss things when they seem, vibey, whatever this is. It's not, it's real. So Carma, what are the takeaways?
All righty, Kevin. Well, we had a lot of great takeaways. So we'll go, I always like to go back to the beginning. So they were talking about, the vibey stuff, which I think sometimes people are like, a little too touchy-feely. But if we think about it all the time, that, like Janet said in her takeaway, energy and vibe are generated by your mindset, right? Then the other one that I really liked was Kirsten said, your vibe attracts your tribe, which to me immediately, first of all, I loved that. And secondly, let's think about the fact that we always think about how we attract similar people, right? Isn't that your vibe attracts your tribe? When we've been talking in these Ninja Accelerators about how to adjust to a communication style for your clients that might be different than yours. Again, we're attracting certain people initially, right? Because of our vibe, and we adjust based on their vibe. So I mean, the vibe thing is real. I'm not sure if I'm articulating that right, but that's sort of one thing that I'm getting from it. Sandra typed in the power of positive thought to progress through real estate transactions is something she teaches her clients about, which I think is great. That one, a number of people said they thought they really liked that comment. The ninja symbol key is the same as energy. And typed in the importance of personal and meaningful contact can't be replaced by, e-blast and everything else. Those tools are great, but that personal, meaningful contact is still really important. Making it a habit to just call when you think of someone, and we all do this. I mean, I'm not selling anymore, but I have people where I'm like, I should really call that person. It pops into my mind in the middle of, a Zoom or the workday or whatever. and I don't take the time right then, mostly because I just can't at that moment, but I should be jotting it down and then reaching out to that person later, even by text. But a couple other comments. I think one of the things that resonated with me when I watched this video the first time was who isn't real, right? When you're upset that your client or your friend has used somebody else, if you look back, if you haven't honestly been in frequent, consistent communication, personal outreach with that person, whose fault is that? It's your fault. It's not the client's fault. You weren't in front of them. You weren't staying in contact. So that was something that a number of people, you know, commented on, right down to the man in the mirror reference. So we had a lot of comments on that one. And then see, Carl said the pandemic, which I totally agree with, was talking to Kevin and Natasha about this yesterday. The pandemic is the perfect time to reach out and ask, how are you? Which is a genuine question of concern. It's about them, which is what we want to be doing. We always want to be asking about other people, focusing on them. And it's authentic. Everybody is concerned about the people that they know and care about right now during the pandemic. So it's super easy. And then I do have to finish with Tammy typing in my reference, which I've been saying for as long as I was a managing broker, was text people and say, hey, I just drove by your house. Call them. Hey, I just drove by your house. Your pots look amazing. Or, oh, did you guys put on an addition? Oh, I see you've got some painting going on. Oh, your neighbors are selling. Whatever. I drove by your house thinking of you. Call them, text them. Frankly, I might have occasionally just said, I just drove by your house and thought of you, even though I didn't, because I could have, because it was an easy way to reach out. So yes, thanks Tammy for the shout out. I have been preaching that for a long time. So that is what I've got. Did I miss anything? Because now I haven't been looking as it's been rolling in while I'm talking. So did you guys see something else?
I think you covered it. I would like to, the man in the mirror thing, you know, looking in the mirror. How many of us have had that, had to look in the mirror instead of saying, I can't believe they didn't choose us. You know, they weren't loyal, whatever. But in reality, we didn't keep in touch. And we always know, like Carma, you just said, and a lot of the takeaways is that in the back of your mind, you have this feeling. You know you should be reaching out. You know that they're important, whether it's because of referrals or because they might be moving soon. But we haven't taken action on it. So I really love that that's the way it started in terms of, you know, it's in terms of why this is important, so that the relationships continue. So I know, Natasha, you had a lot of thoughts when we were talking about how this applies. And you said this is one of your favorite Ninja accelerators.
It is. I mean, I love this topic. It's super interesting. It's timeless. I mean, there's never a market where this doesn't apply. And it reminds me of, you know, I say to a lot of my agents, like, there's certain things in our business that are changing at the speed of light. And then there's certain things that don't. This will always ring true. And by the way, these are some great comments. And we got a lot of musicians in the group, I think. So, but check out Robin. She just got a phone call from somebody that she was thinking of. So one of the things, just a couple of points, is I remember when I did the Ninja class and kind of learning about this concept and thinking, yeah, that's totally happened to me before. And so once you've become aware of it, I think that's a lot of the value here is becoming aware and acting on it. So, you know, what can we control? What can't we control? Carma, I think you maybe touched on this, is one point that I learned over time is Carma's name comes across my mind and I'm like, okay, maybe I write it down, maybe I don't. And then maybe a day later, Carma calls me and says, I've been thinking of you. And I'm always like, I was going to call you. I wanted to be the first one. So I think that's something important to remember, especially with your clients. As you know, Carma said, we don't sell now, but we have other relationships that we cultivate. And so I just think that's such an important point. And, you know, again, what can you control? What can't you control? You know, you can make those calls. So that was one thing I just wanted to, I don't know, point out. And again, it's happened to me so many times. It's eerie. So I just think it's fascinating. The other thing to remember is you're not bothering people. They want to hear from you. And sometimes I say to my agents, you owe it to them. So my joke is, you know, you go to the closing table, you get divorced and off you go. They did a transaction with you. You had a relationship, you owe it to them to reach out, and they do want to hear from you over time. So I think that's really important. Somebody brought up the timing of the pandemic. And again, these comments are amazing in here. It's gratitude month. It's November. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Everyone's pretty much around. So as I think Kevin mentioned, just saying, how are you? But somebody else commented in the chat about how are you feeling? You know, how are you feeling during this it's a very anxious time. So it's a great time. You have an opportunity to reach out to people. So take it. So the other point that I've been saying a couple of times lately is, we always assume that our clients know how the market is or how we're doing or that we're busy. And in this funky time, in this funky year, what are they thinking about what we're doing? Might they be thinking, gee, is Natasha still really selling? Because I haven't heard from her. It's a pandemic. Our house is really selling. So we all know it's been crazy, but do they? So I think that is something just to consider. Especially, I know in our markets, we lost our print media. So we have to come up with different ways to advertise. So that's something that I was thinking about, it kind of along those lines as well. And sorry to ramble on, but we still need to be the advisors to our clients. We still need to interpret the market for them, help them. We know it can be street to street, neighborhood to neighborhood. So they're hearing all this stuff from whatever source. You still need to be the source for their market and for them, their advisor. So that's another thing. One thing that comes up, this came up in the Ninja installation that I did in 2014, is the dreaded, I've totally ignored my entire sphere, my past clients, I've done absolutely nothing. And now how do I break the ice? And I think a lot of us struggle with that. I mean, we get busy, we forget. So I think, there's that mea culpa moment. And I think, the Ninja manner in which to reach out, which is so personal, makes it so much easier. I think there was a comment in the chat about that, like just saying, how are you? How hard is that? But also, I think it's okay, Carma and Kevin, tell me if you disagree, to say, I've been remiss in keeping in touch and I apologize. And I want to hear how you're doing, and let them go, let them talk. I think, well, actually, I'll share this in a little bit about a letter. So the last thing is, and I think this was something you and I were talking about, Kevin, is if you're making them feel good, you're caring about them, there can't be any harm, or there's never a bad time. So I think those were some of the points that we talked about yesterday. Did I miss anything?
Oh, you covered it. I think that last one is, a lot of times, like the last thing you said in terms of there's never an inappropriate time to reach out. I saw in the chat, a lot of people were concerned about bothering or interrupting. Amy and I talked about that earlier this week in terms of being open to interrupting people. But if you interrupt them with value, no one's going to be mad. It's sort of like birthdays, right? When you see someone's birthday pop up and for a second in your mind, you're like, should I call it? Like, I haven't talked to them in a long time. No one has ever gotten angry because you wish them a happy birthday. No one has ever said, I wish they didn't wish me a happy birthday. So, the fear that we create is in our own head versus how they are actually going to react. So I really like seeing in the chat too, how many people said, I just texted 3 people, or I just, and there's some actual stories that happened. I'm not sure if they're shared with everybody. Can't scroll back up, but stories that actually happened just now during this video, which is super funny.
Yeah. There's a couple comments in here too. How do you break that ice? Somebody said, it's been 2 to 3 years. I still think it's just important to kind of own it, right? And just say, they're still happy to hear from you. They miss you too. And you get to catch up. I mean, I think it's very gratifying. And I think, Kevin, you said this, we get in our heads so much. I think we're all, just by nature of being in this business, very thoughtful type people, and we want to care. And so we get in our heads a lot, and we get in our own way. So I encourage you to get out of your own head.
Yeah, great advice. Carma, anything to add before we go into pro tips?
I don't know. I feel like we covered most of it. So I would go into, I guess, just segue into the fact that one of the things in terms of breaking the ice, and to play off what Natasha said about getting out of your own way, don't be guilty about not reaching out to somebody and then and being so guilty that you don't reach out. So, I mean, what is the point of that, right? And again, how many times have you reached out to somebody to sincerely ask about them, not about are they selling or buying or do they know anybody, et cetera, but literally just asking about them, and they've said, I can't believe you bothered me. I mean, that just does not happen. So, get out of your own way. Stop worrying about how people are going to respond. And if 1 out of 100 people doesn't respond positively, okay, whatever. So 99 people will. My pro tip for the day is something that comes back to what we've talked about in the summer. I think it was in the summer, Kevin, when we did the Ninja Accelerator on push and pull with Facebook. So when you're posting on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, but Facebook is where we're getting information from other people that a little more info based. when you should be pushing out, you know, a couple times, 2-3 times a week, but you should be pulling information from Facebook about other people to use as a reason to reach out twice as many times as you are posting. For every post, you should pull 2 pieces of information off of Facebook, jot it down, like first thing in the morning. We're all looking at birthdays or whatever else, but instead of responding on their wall or even sending instant messaging through Facebook, text them, call them, whatever the case may be. Their kid is graduating, their kid is not graduating, whatever is going on in their life that's not real estate related. Pull that information from Facebook. It's a public place. They have put it out there. So they are asking people to pay attention to this about their lives. They're asking people to comment. So really, like, you can't go wrong, right? So use Facebook to your advantage, not only putting stuff out there, but more importantly, pulling things about other people so that you're always making it about them and it's authentic. So that was my pro tip. Kevin?
That's great. I think one thing before I go into my pro tip really quickly, in the chat, I think it just went to panelists, but George popped in a great comment because it happens during every Ninja installation. How many times have you written a card and before the person receives the card, they actually reach out to you? I mean, literally, it happens during the 1 week Ninja installations all the time, where on Tuesday during that week, we'll send cards out and someone on Wednesday or Thursday will say, the person I'm sending a card to just texted, called, emailed, whatever it might be. So great. I want to make that point before we go further. But in terms of my pro tip, the pro tip that I have is in terms of asking questions. We've talked about this all through. It's all about love. Here's what's going to happen. So you call someone or you text them, you get into a conversation, and it'll happen over the phone. Let's say you do say at the beginning, hey, you know what? I'm really sorry. I haven't been in touch. I should have been. Can we catch up? Or how are things? How are you feeling? So you say that up front, but here's the damage or the fear is that we start over talking. Is that we start, instead of asking questions about them, we go into wanting to bomb them with value. Where we're talking about the market, or they ask us, so how are things with you? And we go on a long diatribe. We haven't talked with them in a long time. We're nervous about the call to begin with. And what happens then is we tend to over talk. So just remember everything we've talked about during It's All About Love, especially when Thad was sharing that when you make it about them, they will be attracted to you. So asking questions and digging deeper, the forward questions that Larry was talking about and that we learned in Ninja, ask about them, how they're feeling. If they ask you, great, you can respond. But remember, it's all about them. And to a point that was made in one of the chat sections, someone just put in there, what are some words that you can say or a phrase that you can say so that people don't refuse your call or a text or a conversation? And that's not the way we should really think about it. You shouldn't, hopefully nobody's refusing it. The only time somebody wouldn't want to talk to us is when we are salesy, when we are pushing and not listening, when we're not asking them questions, when they don't feel like it's sincere, when they feel like we have an agenda. But if you reach out to someone, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Unless there's some bad blood there, they're never going to refuse. Nobody doesn't want to feel good, I guess. They're not going to refuse your call or text. So that's mine. And I know, Natasha, you got a great one.
Yeah, and actually, because I do think this went just to us. George said, I've never asked someone how they are doing, and they said to me, what do you care? So good points. Again, lots of great chats going on here. So I just wanted to share back to my Ninja installation a couple of years ago. We had a veteran agent, very high level agent who's been selling for a long time. Clearly it's working for him, but he admitted in front of all these people, he said, I've got hundreds of people I've not kept in touch with, and this is making me realize, what the opportunities I'm missing, and just kind of feeling a little bit, as we've been talking about, guilty. So one thing that he did, he came back, I don't know, a day or two later, and he had written a gratitude letter. So he wrote this letter to, I don't know, 100, 150 people, something like that. And he just said, I'm grateful for the opportunity to have worked with you, just expressing his gratitude and, saying I'd love to keep in touch or reconnect. So it's not a phone call. And like George said, sometimes you send the note and the call comes and before, but it was just a great letter and he felt really good. And the responses he got were so positive. He's like, I was blown away about how many people reached back out and said, yeah, it's great to hear from you. So it's all good.
Awesome. Well, hopefully this has been helpful. The suggestion that we all have is to reach out to somebody. And what we would say is, if you haven't during the video yet, right now, as we wrap, write down the people that you need to reach out to. Write down 2 names, 2 people that have been on your mind or someone that comes to mind right now. And before you step up, walk away, do something else, reach out to those people. Reach out to those people today and now, and send your stories to coffee@appproperties.com, because we'd love to have more feedback and understand what happens. And if everybody does it, think about everybody on this webinar right now. Let's call it 1,000. We'll be reaching out to 1,000 people in the next 20 minutes. And what kind of impact can that have on your business and also within the community, and just asking people how they're feeling, how they're doing. So make a commitment right now. Write down 2 people you need to be in touch with, reach out to them before you stand up, go somewhere else, or do anything else. And thank you for joining us. Natasha, this was awesome. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me. It was fun.
Great to have you.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.
Happy to be here.
All right, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Remember, if you need a refresher, you missed the first part, check it out on the Agent app under the featured posts in the It's All About Love. And we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.
See you in 2 weeks.
Bye,
Happy
everyone.
Thanksgiving, everybody.